What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we've got a lot to talk about. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news. And then we'll open up the phone lines for your comments, questions, opinions, and observations. Now, interestingly enough, over on the official White House YouTube channel, first of all, they've turned comments off, and apparently the video has only gotten about 320,000 views, but they're still out there assuring us that Biden got 81 million votes. So a little interesting insight over there. And interesting little article, bit of a warning coming from Russia Today. The democracy and unity of Biden's inaugural address have fine print attached that says after dissent is silenced. And we're already seeing that coming on out in certain policy comments and certain actions by Biden's associates. They basically want everybody silenced, towing the official line on everything, whether it's election fraud or vaccine safety or any of that stuff here. And, basically, he talks a good talk about unifying the nation, but what he's actually doing so far is only going to split the nation further apart. Another little article, this one also from Russia Today. Pardon me. Get ready for 4 years of vomit-inducing media fawning as our brave journalists transform into PR agents for President Biden. And they're absolutely right. They are going to be as enthusiastic about applauding Joe Biden as they were about attacking Donald Trump. And it's going to make watching the news completely worthless. Now, Biden's new White House press secretary is Jen Psaki, and introduced herself to the press room, promising transparency, did not mention her predecessor. And apparently, one of the reporters in the room, their question was if Biden was going to change the colors on Air Force One. And Jen came back and said, that's a good question. So we can expect not much of any usefulness from the White House press corps from this point onward here. Now, over in Portland, Antifa celebrated Biden's inauguration by smashing all the windows of the Democratic headquarters. Now, Portland has been in a state of riot for just, ages and ages. I've lost count of how long this has been going on. But apparently a group of about 200 protesters smashed windows and defaced the Democratic headquarters with anarchist symbols and slogans. One of the slogans read, "Blank Biden." Oh. They may have created a monster when they created Antifa here. Over in Tennessee, there's a mayor who lowered his town's flag, American flag, to half staff yesterday. And of course, he got criticized for it, but he's basically sticking to his guns, saying that it's a day of national mourning. And I tend to agree here. Now, interestingly enough, Biden is already showing that he is going to create all kinds of orders for people that he himself will not follow. Apparently, Biden showed up at the Lincoln Memorial without wearing a mask after signing the executive order mandating masks worn at all federal property, of which the Lincoln Memorial is one. So it's already do as I say, don't do as I do. And apparently Biden is getting ready to reverse the transgender military ban almost imminently. And this is going to create morale problems within the service, I think. So, this transgenderism is just, it's out there. I mean, they still can't figure out what restrooms they're supposed to be using. Biden has already redecorated the Oval Office, and in the process, he removed the portrait of former President Andrew Jackson because Jackson is very offensive to the banker class. Apparently, he installed a bust of Che Guevara. And So they're moving forward with that here. Now, the Clintons had the Clinton Foundation, and Biden's got the Biden Institute. It's located at the University of Delaware. It is refusing to disclose all of its donors now that Joe Biden is president. Now, the Institute was established back in 2017 with a goal of raising $20 million, promising to embody the spirit of honesty, integrity, compassion, and courage, blah, 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 that it claims Biden stands for. But apparently the Biden Institute is continuing to engage in a multi-million-dollar fundraising campaign, which could attract donations from those interested in currying favor with the Biden administration. Gee, you think? And apparently, Biden's pick for Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, is facing calls to explain over $20 million in anonymous Chinese funding of the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, established in 2018 and run by Blinken himself. So already, I mean, the corruption is just piling up like crazy. It's insane. It's really insane. All righty. Apparently, Joe Biden, pardon me, is calling on the Department of Justice to resume the Obama-era slush fund payouts to left-wing groups. Now, the original idea was when a corporation committed a crime and there was a settlement, the settlement funds would go first to the victims and then back into the Treasury to benefit the general American people. But Obama basically said that they could take that money from these corporate settlements and donate it to various left-wing groups. And they called it like the slush fund. And apparently in 2017, Congress took aim at the slush fund, which incentivized these corporate payments to left-wing groups like La Raza. Now, apparently the Biden inauguration managed to funnel money to Planned Parenthood using that field of flags sponsorships. Apparently, the flags are all being used to attract donations. And apparently, the Biden Presidential Inaugural Committee has listed Planned Parenthood and LGBT organizations as the beneficiaries of any donations made for the flags, which took the place of spectators on the National Mall. And basically, Biden marked his first day in office by emphasizing his links to abortion and LGBT ideology. So Washington, D.C. has been turned into what is essentially a military zone. Spectators have been barred from gathering at the National Mall, but apparently as of today, the National Guard are starting to finally leave. And there's an interesting little video taken of the inaugural motorcade, which shows at least one unit of the National Guard standing with their backs turned to the beast. So don't really have an explanation for that yet. Everybody's arguing, were they protesting or, were they looking for flying saucers in the other direction or something? Sounding the warning over at allmarket.us, they're talking about how Biden's presidency could well be a catalyst for secession and perhaps even a civil war. And between the two, I would prefer secession, but the last time that was tried, it led to a civil war. And basically, they're talking about how Biden and the globalists are trying to create chaos so they can demand their own idea of what constitutes order in this country. Another article, this one is from Zero Hedge, talking about the masks coming off. And the writer was working on a piece called 2021, the Year of Censorship of Dissent, as a bit of a prophecy. And he says, his plans were ruined because media and social media companies, what he calls the global Pravda, basically have started even earlier than anticipated, and they're censoring left, right, and center. And so his prophecy for the rest of the year is already yesterday's news. Over in the European Union, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen informed Joe Biden ahead of the inauguration that Silicon Valley CEOs have no authority to decide on laws and rules, according to Russia Today. And von der Leyen said at his speech on yesterday, to the European Parliament that the incoming Biden administration must begin to regulate the big tech companies. You're not going to see that happen. This political power, unbridled power held by big internet giants, must be reined in. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Another article, this one coming also from Zero Hedge, talking about John Brennan, former CIA director John Brennan, was interviewed on MSNBC and basically said that the intelligence community is moving in laser-like fashion to uncover dangerous plots against the country. And he listed a bunch of ideologies that Biden's intelligence community should go after, such as religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, and even libertarians. Apparently, libertarians are now considered a threat to the nation. Now, this story coming out of Your Destination Now, according to this story, the FBI is now renting billboards across the country to promote the lie that President Trump and his supporters are all violent. And of course, last year told us, who were the violent ones and who were the calm ones. But they're out there propagandizing that Trump supporters are violent. And of course, this opens the door for oppression on the basis of, well, we've got to root out terrorism here. And in a way, John Brennan has given the plan away to basically identify and root out political opposition from the entire American population. Now, Brennan was the man who weaponized the CIA to target Hillary Clinton's political opposition. And Brennan is talking about Trump supporters, but would not even mention Donald Trump's name. They still hate him, and they're trying to figure out a way to keep him from ever returning. Story, this is from CaitlinJohnstone.com. The boot is coming down hard and fast, basically echoing what we're hearing from all these other stories. Biden is announcing plans to roll out new domestic terrorism laws. We have plenty of domestic terrorism laws. And apparently Biden says this is a priority of his. And he's being urged to create a White House post overseeing the fight against ideologically inspired violent extremists and increasing funding to combat them. This is coming from the Wall Street Journal. Did you know that Biden has often boasted about being the original author of the U.S. Patriot Act? So we know what his mindset is here. Leftists who are apparently channeling the spirit of the old Soviet NKVD, they're calling for a new secret police unit to spy on Trump supporters. Now, this was published by the Daily Beast. Jeff Stein argues that existing federal agencies like the FBI are ill-equipped to stop white terror because they missed signs of the assault on the Capitol building seats, which we know was a staged false flag here. And so his solution is to create a new secret police, and he actually uses those words in order to infiltrate and neutralize armed domestic extremists, which apparently includes 70 million Trump voters. Okay, so that smelly person standing next to you who promises they can get their hands on some dynamite, that's the informant. See that some harm comes to them. Over at the corporate media, they're basically calling for a new definition of free speech. They can't get rid of that First Amendment. So what they're going to try and do is redefine what constitutes free speech into some form of, you're free to freely speak what the official line is. And, we get all these catchphrases, flatten the curve, the new normal, the great reset, and now it's new definition of free speech. And interestingly enough, the corporate media is still united in saying that the banning of Donald Trump from the internet does not violate his free speech rights. He's still free to speak out. You know, he could go in a closet or something like that. Little scary thing. I mean, we've all heard about PRISM and total information awareness and vast sums of money spent on these systems. There's a new one. It's called HART, the Homeland Advanced Recognition Technology. It is a vast database on us all that will include facial recognition data, DNA, data from questionable sources, highly personal data on innocent people. It will be shared with federal agencies outside the Department of Homeland Security, as well as state and local law enforcement and foreign governments. It's not being shared with you. You're not supposed to know what's in there or how it's being used. Story coming on out of Reason.com. Civil rights groups across the country, more than 100 of them, are urging Joe Biden and Kamala Harris not to pass any new laws to address any potential threats from white nationalists emboldened by and loyal to former President Donald Trump. Well, remember, Trump didn't embolden violence. He didn't, the latest corporate media thing is that his calls for peace and reason are really code phrases saying burn it all down here. But apparently 135 civil rights organizations have united together saying we don't need new domestic terrorism laws. And we really don't. There are already laws against domestic terrorism. And, these new domestic terrorism laws are really going to be attacks on our civil liberties. Over at social media, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube are allowing an anti-MAGA video to stay on the platforms. They insist it doesn't violate their community standards. The video is basically selling the idea that all Trump supporters are domestic terrorists who should be reported to authorities. Now, this is the definition of incitement, but it's okay, as far as Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are concerned. Over at the Gateway Pundit, they have an article, YouTube has been caught red-handed erasing dislikes from the Biden White House page. And apparently, during the White House press conference, the American public was quick to downvote Psaki's nonsense at 3 p.m. Down to 10,000 votes. But by 7 p.m., YouTube came to the rescue and erased several thousand of the downvotes. They do that a lot over there. Now, Twitter is caught in a new child porn scandal. They are being sued by some people for posting videos of them being abused. And these young people were entrapped and blackmailed into making some videos of prurient content, which were then posted on Twitter. And Twitter says that doesn't violate our community standards. People talking about vote fraud. Oh, we got to get rid of them. People doubting vaccine safety. We got to get rid of them. But, children in sexual situations. No, that doesn't violate our community standards at all. Good reason to leave Twitter. And a lot of people are, by the way. They're going over to Gab and VK, and Parler should be up by the end of the month here. And anyway, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi are still out there insisting it wasn't the stolen election that discredited American democracy. It was Putin's order to Trump to cause an insurrection on January 6th. They're still out there pushing that Russiagate nonsense. And it's like they can't even come up with anything original. Meanwhile, the federal government has quietly closed the Flynn leak investigation and, no surprise, found no wrongdoing by Obama officials. All right, we're coming up on a commercial break. We're going to listen to some words from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continuing support. We're just going to go on as long as we can, giving the American people the information they need to have so that they can make good choices. And once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And all of this information can be found at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. The network thanks you. Okay, story actually came in over the commercial break. Apparently, the House Oversight Committee sent a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray, who gets to keep his job, for being such a blessing to Joe Biden, to look into allegations of social media platform Parler's involvement related to the violence of January 6th. And, this is how they're going to go after all the free speech platforms here. They're going to take them out one at a time. Pardon me, it's Parler now. Next, it'll be Gab. Then VK will be blocked at the border because it's hosted in Russia. We're going to come down to where Twitter and Facebook and Google, are the officially sanctioned social media, and you're not allowed to use anybody else. They're going to go after probably BitChute and, it's dictatorship. It's staring you right in the face. You got to recognize it for what it is. Anyway, like I just mentioned, Biden is planning to keep Christopher Wray as director of the FBI, and according to Jen Psaki, Biden has confidence in Wray, and so forth and so on. So that's Wray's reward for betraying Donald Trump. Over in Pennsylvania, Senator Doug Mastriano is unveiling legislation to ban no excuse mail-in voting from the state. And obviously the mail-in voting, which was reinforced by this lockdown nonsense, was where a lot of the election fraud took place that stole the White House from Donald Trump. So he's trying to change the law at the state level, but I think now that the Democrats have a lock on stealing elections, they're not going to let go. They're definitely not going to let go. We're seeing this country become a one-party system like the former Soviet Union. Okay, now, article that came on out from the Atlantic, no less, talking about how Joe Biden has a Europe problem. And the problem, of course, is skepticism about the ability of the United States to deal with some of the situations facing the world, including the rise of China as a superpower, the proliferation of nuclear weapons, and, of course, human-caused global warming. And they need to also patch up the transatlantic alliance, which has been strained with all that nonsense down in Turkey. All right, let's talk about COVID-19. Okay, just 1 hour after Biden's inauguration, the World Health Organization admitted publicly that high cycle PCR testing creates huge numbers of false positives. Now, you know what's going to happen. They're going to go to some other kind of a test. The number of confirmed cases is going to plummet, and Biden will take credit for it. And of course, Trump is going to get the blame for all the harm the vaccines are causing right now. This was purely political, this whole mess. So, over in Israel, who apparently has all the vaccine they're going to need, thousands of Israelis have now tested positive for COVID-19 after receiving the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccination. This is about 12,400 people who got the vaccine. 69 have actually received their second dose, and they're testing positive for COVID-19. So what the heck is going on over there? And a little flashback here, when all of this vaccine started coming out and fast tracking and people were alarmed, CNN actually came on out with a story saying that we should not be alarmed if people start dying after taking the vaccine because, there's probably no connection whatsoever. Even if they died just a couple of days or two after receiving the vaccination, they were going to die anyway, and you should go on having the injection shoved into your arm. That will be the day. This looks a little suspicious here. Apparently, over in India, the Indian Biotechnology and Pharmaceuticals Company, which was founded in 1966, is considered the world's largest vaccine manufacturer. But there was a massive fire that broke out at the Serum Institute, and the blaze broke out at the Terminal 1 gate. And this is AstraZeneca's main COVID vaccine producer. Okay, we got to take another break. 4 commercials. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about COVID-19, and there's an interesting story coming out of New York where a judge had to literally order a hospital to use ivermectin on a woman who was suffering from COVID-19. Now, ivermectin has been shown to be very, very effective. It can knock out COVID-19 in just 48 hours. The woman, by the way, recovered. But you have to wonder what's going on inside our medical industrial complex when they're out there pushing vaccines as hard as they can and basically ignoring the fact that the disease they're selling the vaccine for is actually very easy to cure and has a very, very low death rate, lower than the flu. So it's all money. It's all about following the Benjamins here. Story coming on out of station gossip here, and it makes you wonder about the medical industrial complex. Surveillance footage at a hospital showed a man literally crawling out the door because doctors had dismissed him as a faker. And then somebody took a second look, and he was diagnosed with the rare nerve disorder Guillain-Barré syndrome, which, by the way, is listed by the FDA as one of the possible adverse effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. So, amazing here. Biden has reversed the plan to withdraw from the World Health Organization. Apparently, Fauci is going to lead a U.S. delegation this week to go back and knock on the door and say, let us back in here. And basically, the Biden-Harris administration will work with the World Health Organization to strengthen and reform the organization, support the COVID-19 health and humanitarian response, and advance global health and health security. Interesting little story coming on out about Biden's new CDC director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky. Apparently, she is out there thinking that the last 4 years have been a disaster for the CDC, and she wants to correct that. In short, fix everything that she thinks Trump broke. Now, she came out with an interview saying this top-tier agency, world-renowned, hasn't really been appreciated over the last 4 years and really markedly over the last year. So I have to fix that, which means get ready for a massive propaganda campaign about what great fellows the CDC are. Okay. In other news here, the FBI has arrested CDC critic Dr. Simone Gold. She was arrested on Monday after she was filmed at the U.S. Capitol walking around with a bullhorn. The FBI apparently singled her out because she led a team of doctors called America's Frontline Doctors that challenged COVID prevention strategy. This happened all the way back in July. And, they're out there trying to dispel the misinformation and myths surrounding coronavirus. The group was concerned with the disinformation being played out in the far left American media. They also promoted the use of hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for coronavirus. And the American left trashed the doctors, and the tech giants, of course, immediately blocked them. Now, the American left hates to be confronted on their lies. And for months went after Dr. Simone and the other doctors trying to ruin their reputation. Dr. Simone was fired for speaking on the benefits of treating the coronavirus with hydroxychloroquine. Again, it's all about the Benjamins. The vaccine companies are making tons and tons of money, and politicians are expecting huge donations in the next election cycle here. Getting to the international news here, we have heard a lot about how U.S. troops in Afghanistan are down to 2,500, but it's a bit misleading because there are over 18,000 contractors remaining in Afghanistan, Pentagon contractors. And basically the numbers mean the Pentagon employs 7 contractors to each U.S. service member. And about 4,700 of the current contractors are Afghans hired locally. The remaining come from outside the country, including about a third who are U.S. citizens. So we're still in Afghanistan. They're just using a different label to kind of hide that. And of course, the contractors are paid a heck of a lot more than the U.S. service people. Over in Serbia, a team of legal experts is filing the first cases against NATO on behalf of people who developed cancer after being exposed to depleted uranium munitions during the Serbian bombings in 1999. The first lawsuit is expected to be filed before the higher court in Belgrade. Actually, it was filed yesterday following years of extensive work by a team of legal experts led by lawyer Srđan Aleksić. Dozens of the lawsuits will be filed before other courts across the country as well. The team is seeking to win compensation of about $360,000 for each Serbian victim who developed cancer. Now, that depleted uranium, it's basically nuclear waste. And it's what's left over after you enrich uranium. And it's radioactive, and they don't know what to do with it, so they've been turning it into weapons because it is, in fact, denser than lead and carries more kinetic energy to the target. Now, when it's in its solid metallic form, you know, with reasonable precautions, it can be safe. But when it impacts a target, it vaporizes into dust. And the dust gets picked up by the wind, and people breathe it, and they develop cancer. I had a friend who was an ammunition loader for the A-10 Warthog, which uses depleted uranium, and he died of cancer. Now, one place where Joe Biden and Donald Trump appear to agree is Venezuela. And the Biden administration has said it will continue to formally recognize Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido as president of Venezuela, despite Nicolas Maduro clearly being the actual leader of the country. So Biden's nominee for Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, told senators that Guaido will be the recognized leader, which is a policy that began in January 2019. So they're going to go on trying to topple Venezuela here. All righty. Blinken has also announced that Biden is going to end U.S. involvement in the Yemen war in short order, which would be a good thing, but I'll believe it when I actually see it, because we don't know, you know, how his fraudulency is at keeping his promises and word just yet. Over in Kashmir, apparently militants are targeting non-Kashmiris amid tensions over land laws. And so they're still fighting over there between India and Pakistan. There is a danger for a regional war in Northeast Africa, thanks to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. We've talked about this before. It's being funded by China, and you know, there's concern that they're going to dam up part of the Nile, and everybody downstream from the dam will have less water to work with, you know, it goes to Egypt, Congo, Kenya, Tanzania, and so it's a problem. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Bedouin village of Al-Araqib was demolished again for the 182nd time yesterday. And once again, they're being displaced by Israeli authorities. Officials forced their way into the community and bulldozed the tents the community had reconstructed out of wood and nylon as use for shelter in the cold, rainy weather. Now, this village is unrecognized by the government of Israel. It's north of Beersheba in the Negev desert region of Israel. It was destroyed by authorities 1 month ago. The inhabitants continue to stay on the land and continue to rebuild their structures every time. Well, they certainly have resilience here. Apparently, Israel has banned a Palestinian documentary called Jenin Jenin, and filmmakers are denouncing the ban. There's quite a few articles on it. And of course, it's already on the internet. In fact, we linked to it from whatreallyhappened.com. But Israel has seized all 23 copies of the actual film. It is banned from screening in all Israeli cinemas. Apparently, there was something in there that Israel does not want to get on out. The Biden administration has changed the description, if you will, of the U.S. ambassador to Israel into the U.S. ambassador to Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. And some people are saying this policy shift signals the new administration does not consider any parts of those areas as Israeli territory. So if Israel thought they were getting a dedicated Zionist in the Oval Office, they may be having a little bit of a wake-up call. Story coming on out from Revolver News here, talking about the new campaign, the woke campaign in the military. And apparently the military-industrial complex is going, back to the war on terror policies of the Bush-Obama years. And apparently the deep state regime is turning its attention to normal, patriotic Americans, and there's going to be a purge of ideologically wrong people from the military. So basically, they're going to have a military made up entirely, I guess, of liberals and transgenders. And I don't know if that's going to be an effective fighting force here. Talking about the economic news now, there's an article over at UNS.com. The Biden administration promises to construct economic policy around issues of race, gender equality, and climate change. And, it reminds me a little bit of that old Soviet saying, from each according to their means, to each according to their needs. And it's getting absolutely Soviet over there in Washington, D.C. And we can see it coming. And we know what a disaster it's going to be. It certainly didn't work for the Soviet Union, did it? They're not around anymore. Apparently, Treasury nominee Janet Yellen wants to shut down use of cryptocurrency. And Yellen is out there saying that cryptocurrencies are mainly used for illicit financing. Now, the real agenda is to get us all back to using those issued with interest Federal Reserve notes and, turn us back into debt slaves again. And that's what she's out there trying to do. Over at the Vatican, the former head of the Vatican Bank, Angelo Caloia, was convicted on charges of embezzlement and money laundering, making him the highest ranking Vatican official to be convicted of a financial crime. They weren't able to try Roberto Calvi because he was found hanging underneath a London bridge. Apparently, the Vatican court also convicted Gabriel Luiso and his son Lamberto Luiso, who were both lawyers who were consultants to the banks. And apparently they made off with a lot of money. They're now saying that that huge money transfer to Australia was a simple mistake, and they're going to get the money back. Bitcoin slumped for a second day earlier today, and it's basically wiped out over $100 billion from the entire crypto market, because when Bitcoin goes down, they all go down except for one. And apparently Bitcoin slipped yesterday to as low as 31,000 falling below the 32,000 level for the first time since January 11th. So it's still considered the world's most valuable digital coin, and it's having quite a bit of volatility these days. Over at Volkswagen, pardon me, they're dealing with a production problem right now because there is a shortage of chips used in the onboard computers coming from China. And apparently Volkswagen is the latest automaker to be hit hard by the semiconductor shortage that is sweeping its way through the auto industry. Bloomberg is reportedly saying that Volkswagen has lost tens of thousands vehicles in production in China as a result of this. Well, why are we not starting up our own integrated circuit chip companies again? I mean, after all, they were invented in the United States as part of the Apollo program. Over in Shanghai, China, a Tesla Model 3 had its battery damaged and immediately caught fire. Was in a Shanghai parking garage. Nobody was injured in the blaze, but apparently the fire department is investigating along with the owner's insurance company. And basically they're saying most likely something damaged the undercarriage and battery. Joe Biden has reversed one of Donald Trump's executive orders already. He will include illegal aliens in the census to determine congressional seats and electoral college votes. And this is a mistake. They're not even supposed to be here. And to give them congressional representation, knowing they will always vote Democratic, because that's where the free stuff is coming from. Anyway. Apparently, gun sales are through the roof right now. They're saying Biden is coming, and gun owners, they're literally lining up around the block outside gun stores across the United States. It's a panic buy situation. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of problems there. And finally, Biden has issued an executive order that any educational institution that receives federal funding must admit biologically male athletes to women's teams and women's scholarships. So congratulations, ladies. You've got a brand new glass ceiling over your head, courtesy of Joe Biden. Apparently, the cash-strapped University of Leicester is cutting 145 jobs. They're de-emphasizing medieval studies and English literature in order to create a woke, decolonized curriculum. Down in Mississippi, they are looking at a bill that would make a felony for anyone who willfully causes an abortion. And this is Republican Mississippi State Representative Dan Eubanks. He's saying any person who performs or induces any abortion shall be guilty of murder. And you know how I feel about abortion, but I really do think this is a bit of overkill. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials. Back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. This story just now came on in. Apparently, a judge has denied Parler's attempt to get Amazon Web Services to restore its service. The judge cited dwindling slight evidence for Parler's antitrust claims, as well as the dangers posed by inflammatory rhetoric. So he's basically just set a legal precedent for shutting down any social media that hosts inflammatory rhetoric, which means they can shut down any social media, any competitors for Facebook and YouTube and Google simply by having shills go on there and post inflammatory rhetoric. So, yes, story coming on out from Global Research. Apparently, Reuters had an investigation indicating that QAnon is, in fact, an FBI psyop. And, you know, most people these days look at QAnon as regarded, it's a hoax or a prank originated by online message board users in 2017 that got out of control. And but apparently in November 2020, Reuters reported the very first social media accounts to promote the QAnon persona were seemingly linked to Russia and backed by the Russian government. Now they're backtracking and saying it was an FBI operation all the time. And they're not giving up. I mean, talk about flogging a dead horse. QAnon supporters are out there saying that Joe Biden is going to implement the plan, whatever the plan happens to be here. All right, we got a little science news that's kind of been accumulating for the last few days, but I need to sort of clear out the talking points list here. SpaceX successfully launched another 60 Starlink satellites into space. Their constellation is now 1,000, or just about 1,000, and it's annoying a lot of astronomers, but apparently SpaceX has started adding a dark sunshade to the satellites to make them less visible in the night sky, which I think is a very courteous thing to do. NASA recently announced the Juno mission to Jupiter will be extended through 2025. And apparently they're going to use the extended mission to conduct close flybys of 3 of Jupiter's moons using its suite of instruments to further unlock their secrets as a follow-up to observations made by Voyager and Galileo. And Juno is the second probe under NASA's New Frontiers program, was launched in 2011, so it's just been ticking along. Now, this story came out a while ago, but I'm going to mention it. This was actually reported on Fox News, and NASA basically has announced they have discovered an FM signal emanating from one of Jupiter's moons. Now, they're not saying this is a sign of life, but most of the radio signals detected in the universe are AM, amplitude modulated. And it's kind of hard to think of a natural process that is going to be modulating the frequency. For one thing, it's got to be narrowband. So Patrick Wiggins, one of NASA's ambassadors, says it's not ET. Says it has to be a natural function. They just don't know what it is. All right, we're going to take a break for station identification, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. And before we take phone calls here, earlier in the program, I mentioned how Joe Biden changed the title of the U.S. ambassador to Israel to the U.S. ambassador to Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. And he must have gotten a phone call from Tel Aviv because he's already walked it back to where he's just the ambassador for Israel. So he's already caving in. His fraudulency is already caving in. All right, let's go with CJ in North Carolina. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I'm doing good, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great. Yeah, I sent you an email earlier this morning about one of the reasons I think the country is so divided. And it seemed like this just come along about the time Barack Obama came in, but, you know, we never really allowed communists to run in our political system. And I would think that that would be unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
And if the political parties, you know, if you agree on the United States Constitution first, then there couldn't be this great wide gap division among us.
Yes.
Because the sides are so far apart now, there's no middle ground.
You're absolutely right about that.
What
This
do you
nation
think?
has never been more divided.
But a constitution wouldn't allow a party to run that wants to get rid of the Constitution. That would be insane.
It absolutely would be insane, but the Constitution is only as good as the people who are willing to support it, defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to it. And right now, unfortunately, over on the left, well, even on the right, I mean, George Bush, Constitution is just a blankety blank piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, another thing, I heard your couple of the callers yesterday talking about Trump, and I voted for Trump both times. But he, there were so many things he could have done. I mean, first I question why he fell for the phony cold bug, because if you don't fall for that, you don't have mail-in ballots. And even if you did, there was several issues with the lockdowns and everything that he could have took to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
He was more interested in taking his tax returns to the Supreme Court. And it was just a lot of things along the way. You know, when he first got in, he called Clinton and all those criminals, but he failed to act on that. And if your attorney general isn't acting, well, you know, I stay on him and I say, well, have you done anything with that? And then if he says no, but I'm looking at it, and then go back the next month, and if he hasn't done anything, well, you just get rid of him, and you just go through them until you find somebody that wants to do the job.
I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there. And it's like I've been saying all along, you know, Trump has been a huge, huge disappointment. And I think most people who supported him back in 2016 did so because they didn't want Hillary in the White House. And, you know, it's just, he has been a disappointment. And I think he was rather naive going in. I know that one of our callers yesterday said that Trump hobnobbed with all these top politicians, but that doesn't mean that he really understood what was going on in the back rooms and in the shadows and underneath the rocks.
Right, and he seemed, you know, when he talks, he blows everything way out of proportion, you know, how he exaggerates everything. And a lot of Republicans will say that, oh, he's the greatest ever, but I really think the economic boom under Reagan totally dwarfed Donald Trump. The only reason Donald Trump might have looked better is because of the inflation. The dollar figure, you know, back when Reagan was in, you could buy twice as much for half the money.
Yes.
So, you know, and I think also one reason why we haven't, you know, they keep saying, well, we can print these trillions of dollars and we haven't had inflation. But I think all that inflation was hidden in the cost of the Chinese products. And that's why we never really seen it, because it was hidden.
Yeah.
You know, that's when the transfer of everything went. But, you know, I just can't believe that locking down Americans could have ever even been considered a choice in America. When they came out and said that, I just felt the communist whoosh go right over my head. And I was like, this is insane. And we're still here, so.
We're still here.
But I appreciate your show, Mike, and nice talking to you, man.
All right, well, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and we're going to go to Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey there, a couple of things. One, with his executive orders, Biden has already put probably several hundreds of thousands of people out of work.
Yes.
By the time he finishes with his executive orders, it will be on the order of several million people.
Yes.
Out of work, and that doesn't include the jobs he's going to end up exporting back overseas.
Yes.
This man is going to be a wrecking crew when it comes to the national economy.
It's a disaster. I'm
hoping that say in 3-6 months from now, people are going to wake up and ask themselves, "What the hell did we vote for?" Good Lord. The reason I really called was that I heard you mention this frequency modulated signal that NASA was picking up. What was it, from Jupiter?
From one of Jupiter's moons.
One of Jupiter's moons. Okay. I'm trying to reach back into my physics background and try to figure out how in the hell do you get a frequency modulated signal from out there. I can't.
Well, they don't. They don't really know. I mean, for one thing, in order to determine that it's being frequency modulated, it's got to be a narrowband signal.
Well, yeah, which indicates that there's some element of control on the modulation, as you know.
Yes.
You've got a narrow band, and of course the frequency is modulated within those upper and lower limits on that band. You know, we deal with that in ham radio lot.
Yes.
But how the hell this is coming out of one of Jupiter's moons is a mystery to me, and I'm just curious, have they misinterpreted something as a frequency modulated signal or an FM signal?
Well, I mean,
Or is this really an FM
it's
signal?
pretty hard to, it's pretty hard to misinterpret it. The difference between AM and FM, I mean, they're pretty confident the signal is being modulated in frequency, and they're just trying to figure out, what's causing it. I just had somebody email me saying any reports of missing satellites with an FM repeater package, which attempted humor, I guess.
Who knows? But I got to tell you, of all of the science news I hear on your program, that is one of the more interesting I've heard in a very long time.
Yeah, it is interesting. Maybe Stanley Kubrick was right, and there's a giant monolith floating out there among Jupiter's moons.
Perhaps there is.
Yes.
There is. And maybe one day we'll find out. We'll find out what it is or where it came from.
Yeah, and the advertisers will have placards glued all over the side of it, for various sponsors. Thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to go to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Mike,
hanging in.
First of all, talking about the military before, the possibility of a purge, like from, that's going to be very, very difficult for them to do.
Yes.
Being that it's the rank and file military that's mostly made up of middle Americans.
Mm-hmm.
They're really the fighting men, and when I say men, I mean men. Okay.
Yes.
The combat arm. You also have the officer corps. If you heard that, I think it's the Army-Navy game and all the cheers he got from the cadets.
Yes.
Okay. The Army-Navy cadets. They're in there already, and obviously they're Trump supporters, or at least they're, red state type.
Yes.
For them to fill the military with a bunch of transvestites and, gangbangers or whatever else they want to do, first of all, they would be worthless in any kind of a ground war. They would probably run at the first sight, the first sight of trouble. Okay? Even
the officers will stand behind them with a machine gun to make sure they keep going forward. I've always thought that the reason they're opening up the borders to illegal immigrants is when war breaks out, they're going to go up and say, we'll give you a U.S. citizenship if you'll fight in this war. They did actually form one unit out of illegal immigrants who were promised a green card for their service, and then they had to discontinue it because it was just an absolute disaster.
Yeah, they'd be massacred. There's, the officers can stand behind all they want. And the officers would be probably made up of the same transvestites, illegal aliens, and gangbangers that the enlisted men are. So that's not going to be possible. It also won't be possible to use these people to control the American population. So that's the good part about it, because, if we do go to secession, civil war, or whoever knows what we're going to, God forbid, because, it would be an awful thing. They won't be able to stop it. Because, and even, by the way, even on the left, a lot of people don't like what's going on already. Even
I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that around here.
Over this, over the kind of crackdown on free speech and whatever else. So now, as far as Parla goes, that they were. First of all, that's just one court. They're probably going to appeal this. The other thing is this. There's no question. They're like Gab got off of, I don't even know how they did it exactly, but they're not run by these, by Apple, Amazon, or any of the other.
They came under attack last year, and they had to switch servers. And Parler's already coming back to life on a new server farm that is not controlled by Amazon. But we're clearly seeing the beginnings of an attempt to silence all opinion except that which is officially sanctioned.
Well, that's what Gab did. They went also, and as far as the other one, VQ?
VK.
I've got that. VK, I've got that. But I haven't figured out how to translate. It's mostly in, I don't know, it's Russian or Polish.
Yeah, it's Russian.
Kind of language there.
It's Russian.
Okay, I can't even figure out how to translate. I've been looking at my
Well, you don't need to really translate in Russian because, most of the people posting there from the United States are using English. I certainly am. And, I'm having an easy time over on VK. And you might want to take another look because they may have, an English version that's basically they're determining what country you're coming from and switching the website language appropriately.
That's what I'm looking at, Al, but I'm only getting a couple of English language people on there.
Okay.
I wish I was getting more. But, so VK, but I am on Gab, so I can't get through to Gab the last week or so, but I can understand why, because they're getting such heavy traffic now. They have to, I guess they have to increase their server size.
They did. They added 10 new servers.
But fortunately, they're not being controlled anymore by. And I think BitChute did the same thing. BitChute, I quite a bit, but BitChute is, you cannot get really chat and stuff like that. But they're pretty good other than that. I mean, they get a lot of the people that are used to seeing YouTube. They're not on YouTube anymore. And you get on BitChute, which is also obviously not controlled by the big, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, whatever they are. So that's
we have this new thing at the website. We have this new thing at the website called Claire's Corner. There are 2 videos there now, and we're using BitChute to put those up. And it's going to be a continuing series, so you might want to check back every once in a while.
Okay. Brighteon, Adams, and Mike Adams.
Yes.
He's pretty good also.
Oh, there you are.
Huh?
You cut off for a moment there. I thought we'd lost you.
Oh, I'm thinking Brighteon, Mike Adams' site. That's pretty good also.
Yes.
He gets quite a bit of good stuff. So there is stuff out there. You just got to find it. Another one I would suggest, well, you can get him on BitChute also, but I go to his live, is Del Bigtree, who tells you all about with COVID and how I think they're trying to get lawsuits against these manufacturers now. What I don't understand is this. I don't know why somebody doesn't challenge the 1986 law about exempting vaccine companies from being sued. To me, that's unconstitutional. If you got it up to the Supreme Court, that should be a 9-0 decision saying that's null and void, that they can be sued. That's, it's absolutely
unconstitutional. I absolutely agree. I mean, they started the trend with the beginning of the home computer revolution. Back then it was a fledgling industry and it did need a little bit of protection, but now it's this multi-billion-dollar behemoth, and we should return product liability to it and to the vaccine makers.
The other thing I want to ask you, you say that Moderna plant caught fire. You say it's in India?
AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca, that's in India?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was their biggest plant. I'm kind of surprised. But anyway, who knows what's behind that? They're also manufacturing COVID medicine, so-called medicine or vaccine.
Yes.
So I don't know, Mike. I tell you, I think the vaccines are already. They can't seem to keep it out of even the mainstream media now. I don't know how much longer they're going to be peddling this poison. And like you said, and I said it already last week, I think Biden is going to probably use this against Trump. He'll make Trump look bad, and for good reason, because Trump pushed this on us. He funded these criminals.
Yep.
He brags about it. And it's like, I think it was CJ before, also from North Carolina.
Yes.
He takes just about everything you need to say about Trump. He did all the wrong things. He put all the wrong people in there. It's his fault. Look at Robert Ray. Here's an example.
Yes.
Who's going to keep him? He replaces
Christopher Ray.
Christopher Ray. I'm sorry. With another shyster lawyer from the Justice Department, and then he's surprised when he could have gotten a guy like Sheriff Clark.
Yes.
Who actually supported his campaign, was part of his campaign in 2016, a constitutional sheriff. Should have put somebody like that in there. He should have also broken up Department of Homeland Security, which never should have come into being in the first place.
I agree.
Part of the scare tactics from the Bush and company. And by the way, all these so-called conservative talk show hosts were supporting the Unpatriotic Act. They were supporting the war in Iraq. They were supporting Bush and all the draconian measures. Now they're complaining. But they started it. They pushed it. And now it's coming back to haunt all of us. And that's the shame of it. And the left should understand this, too. If you let them even further the Unpatriotic Act, it's going to come back and haunt them, too. Okay?
Yes.
It is going to get worse and worse. The oppression is going to get worse and worse till we really won't have we barely got a democratic republic anymore, as it is. We keep pushing it, and we're going to totally destroy ourselves. Or, like you said, I think we are probably headed towards secession. I mean, Texas will probably start it. Other states will join in, and the country will probably split in half. I don't see, unless we start getting together and start understanding that we're all in this, we hang together or we hang separately.
Yes.
That's left, right, okay? If we don't understand that, we are going to go to separation, and it's going to be two different countries. And I don't know how it's going to work out, I'll be honest with you.
It's a scary time. It's a scary time. Mark, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. More phone calls and news when we come on back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael. Good day. Wow, I finally got off that call. Okay, Mike. Yeah. What's on my mind is real quickly. That guy, we got to shout out to Marco. He's right on the money. He's been making some good calls. We need fresh blood like him. We need fresh blood like that guy. We need more guys like him to really help us out here with this situation we're under. But yeah, Mike, let me get going now with bumbling. Before I go to bumbling buffoonery of Biden, and your caller Joe from California made a great call yesterday, and he had a good idea with these T-shirt ideas. But I got one bumbling buffoon, Biden. But and then listening to Biden today about the mask, Mike, he's doing a 100-day mask now. Okay. So we got 100 days with this bumbling buffoon. He can't even get the words out. This guy, you remember when Donald Trump, the first week he took office, Mike, they made him take like a test with the Dr. Jackson to see if he had mental cognation. This guy, Biden, has definitely got to take this test. This guy has definitely got Alzheimer's. I don't care what anybody says. He's leftist, communist, Bolshevik, CNN, and the MSLSD, and all these news networks are kissing his rear end. Know this guy's dementia's out. They know that Camilla's going to be the president very soon. The whole thing is most of them operanes to put Camilla Harris in the presidency to get that bumbling buffoon out of there. And by the way, Mike, did you see his son kiss him on the lips in his inaugural address? And Jill Biden's kissing him on the lips.
I didn't watch the inaugural address. I watched old Star Trek reruns. Yeah,
well, Hunter Biden is kissing his father on the lips. I mean, and Biden looks like he's Chinese because his eyes he looks like Mr. Magoo. He doesn't look like Magoo. I don't care what anybody says. But he's got his eyes squinted and he's kissing the butt of China. But in the meantime, his son's kissing him on the lips, okay? And son, I don't know what's going on with that knucklehead. Got thrown out of the military. He's dishonorable discharge. The guy was doing crack and all that in the military. The media covered that. If that would have been one of Trump's kids, forget it. Trump wouldn't even he had a chance to be run for president, let alone to be the president. So, Mike, this whole thing is a cabal. It's a massive conspiracy. It's a massive, and Mike, getting back to yesterday's, I listened to some of your callers, and Mike, let's get to the real fact. If it weren't for the white Christians that these people are calling out the Democrat Party, do you think the Jews and the blacks would have survived Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany? Hell no, they
probably
wouldn't.
Not.
It was the white Christian men. They would not have won. The white Christians are the ones that gave, the northern, I'm going to call it what it is, Mike, the northern white Europeans, the Polish, the Irish, the Scottish, the English, the Germans, most of the men who fought in World War II, Mike, were German Americans against their own people. Okay? My grandfather's one of them. In World War I, he fought it. German American, Dutch, and Scottish. And he fought against his own people. His father was German. His mother, my great-great-grandmother was Scottish. Okay? So let me get back in Irish. And let me get back to this, Mike. I think a lot of your callers need to start watching that movie Braveheart. Because when William Wallace and Gibson saying, unite the clans, that's what we got to do. And it says the clans with a C. Unite the clans. Unite us. No, we're getting divided. We're getting divided, Mike. We need more Bravehearts. We need, that movie is on the money. If you think about it, the tyranny, the treachery of the power structure, and even in England with Longshanks. That's what we got now, another Longshanks. Bumbling buffoon Biden. And Mike, going back to, I'm not going to go on immigration too much today because I'm going to lighten up on that. But look at this
thank you.
bumbling buffoon. Yeah, I'll ease up on that today a little bit. I'll let some other callers call about the immigration situation. But Mike, look at this Kamala Harris. She's been with multiple men. She's with a Zog agent. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this guy, he's the first, whatever the situation is, schmuck, whatever. I can't even. And then you got a transvestite in Human Health Service of Biden's administration. I mean, this is insanity. This has gone insane. It's off the charts. And, all these Zionists at Hollywood, all that Rob Reiner, that meathead ought to be slapped upside his head. Like Archie Buck used to call that idiot meathead to be popped beside his head. But, Mike, all these filthy communist Bolshevik Jews, I don't understand what their motive operandi is. Why would you want this guy in there instead of a guy like Trump, who's at least going to try to secure your borders? I can tell you why, Mike, because they want to punish all white Northern Europeans for what happened in Germany. Am I lying? They're blaming all the white. It was the white Christians. Look what the movie Saving Private Ryan, Mike.
Yes.
I've been in Arlington Cemetery, and all your callers need to know this. For every 1,000 graves I walked, I maybe saw 10 Star of Davids. I saw 10 Star of Davids for every 1,000 markers in Arlington Cemetery. Who's kidding who here? And all we hear is about whitey is, no, man, we're the majority, and we need to take back our country. We are the majority, not those schmucks. They only make up 2% of the population, yet they're controlling, 80% of the wealth? Bull crap. Enough is enough. And bumbling Biden, he's in bed with China, right? He's in bed with all of them. Iran,
yes, he is.
A bumbling buffoon.
China owns him through Hunter.
You watch his clip. You watch his clip today, and Biden looks very weak. He looks frail, fragile, and he don't look nothing like Trump when it comes to these world leaders. He's gonna be muscle pushed around like a it's gonna be like a bull in a China shop hitting against Biden, man. He's gonna be the China shop. Yeah. Glass. That's what he is, a piece of glass, and a bull's gonna ram him. And Mike, the way they're narrating this thing that Biden is he's more that guy was calling President Trump a clown, Mike. At a debate,
I remember.
At a national debate, and all these people voted. And if Donald Trump had called him a clown, they would have said he's picking on a guy that has Alzheimer's. They would have crucified Trump.
Well, they wouldn't have admitted that Biden had Alzheimer's. Anyway, Tom,
I don't care what anybody says.
Well, they couldn't say that. All right, Tom, got to let you go. Got to take a commercial break. Got more callers waiting on the line. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. I kind of feel like the act that followed Elvis and the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I don't know how. I don't know how I can follow Tom. Peter's got to be the best caller in terms of substance. Tom is the best caller in terms of comedic value. If he doesn't pursue that landscaping gig, he definitely has a career in comedy. He should do stand up. He is just hilarious. Mike, I wasn't going to call, but Mark said something interesting. Mark from North Carolina, he too has excellent calls. Although I don't know why a sensible guy like him listens to Alex Jones, that snake oil salesman. Regarding the military, that would also, if they went after the guys from the heartland, that would also create this giant pool of disgruntled fighting men who potentially could be convinced to join a militia or start their own militia. So would the government want that big pool of because the military basically has become, an avenue for employment, a work program for a lot of these guys because they have no other options. So you take that away from them, they're not going to be very happy.
No, they're not.
And Mike, two final points. Iceland, if you recall, after the financial collapse of 2008, they were the only country that jailed bankers.
Yes.
And there was talk that they were never going to get credit, international credit again. They couldn't sell their bonds, their sovereign bonds. But I guess that they're back in the good graces of these banksters, correct?
Well, it would appear, but Iceland was pretty well self-sufficient anyway, except for its financial district. Yeah, they've cleaned up that mess from all those years ago, and they're open for business.
No, the reason why I say that is, what's to stop the U.S. from defaulting on the portion of the debt that's owed to domestic sources, not the debt that's owed to Japan or China or the Saudis, but what's to stop them from saying, you know what, we're not going to pay you? So that's
well,
the
at
end
this
of that.
point, nothing, because they don't have to be afraid of being voted out of office next time.
No, but I'm saying, like, even if they did turn their back, these banks wouldn't hesitate to issue more credit to them in the future.
Probably not. In a way, if you look at what's been going on in Social Security, the U.S. government has already defaulted on the American worker.
Yeah. And I'll just leave you with this, Mike. Steve Pieczenik actually came out with his money predictions for 2021.
Okay.
Palestinian statehood.
Yeah.
The Seattle Mariners will win the World Series. And the Best Actor Award for this year, Humphrey Bogart.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. That's a good one. Thank you very much for the call, Joe. And the phone lines, we've got lines open up right now, area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go to Marco in Alabama. Hello, Marco. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
What's happening? First and foremost, I feel you, Tom. The part in the movie where the feudal lord is sleeping in his bed and ba-bum, 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 William Wallace is riding the horse towards him. He wakes up, oh, everything's fine. The Americans are not going to do anything or anything like that. They're not going to raise up against me. And then boom, goes down the door, and the American people ride into his room, lower the Morning Star, and swing it and crush his freaking skull. That's where we need to be. I feel you, brother. And, another thing is, I guess what I wanted to touch on is that one of your callers, I think it was CJ in North Carolina,
yes,
had called and said, how he felt, the day, dude, when he started to understand, dude, that this government's getting away, dude, with locking Americans down for COVID, and whoosh, communism, flew over his head, the cold rush of it. Well, guess what? What did we do? We didn't do anything to protest, and that's why, dude, we're going to continue to have this lockdown. And now they're sitting there saying, put on 2 masks now.
Yes.
And put masks on while you're
double
having
the
sex,
profit
dude.
of the mask companies.
I mean, let's get real, dude, guys. These masks are never going to come off. They're not going to ever do anything. You need to sit here and tell everyone that you know and sit them down, dude, and have a reality check moment, dude, with everybody and say, guess what? We are being taken over. The politicians have grossly mismanaged our economy, so therefore they need this great reset to sit here and take all the blame, dude, off of them. And when we don't protest as conservatives and all that, we're just playing into it. And man, one thing is that, I'm a young man, but I was a liberal before all of this. And, I would, like I said before, in previous calls, we were silenced first in 2008 when this Obama black communist, revolution dude came through. We were the first ones silenced. So we know you guys, and we came over and voted for Donald Trump with you. And then when we wanted to protest, you guys looked at us like we were funny and all that stuff, dude, because you guys don't know how, because you would rather go to work, dude, instead of, getting out there and getting a picket line and getting, you guys didn't take advantage of the assets, dude, that you had when you had this guy, dude, who was a populist president. I'm over Trump, dude, failing us. We need to stick together now. And solutions are this, guys. Man, you either get out on, at 12 noon on a Saturday morning and start, hitting your town, traveling in caravans, dude, calling Biden a joke, dude, and having your Trump flags out or your American flags or anything for that matter, and start raising awareness to these people because they're all sheep, dude, and they're all going to go down, man.
Yep.
And dude, you got to sit here and take advantage of what we got because it ain't getting any better. 100 days, dude, of wearing a mask.
Yep.
In my area, at least, my neck of the woods, where we're quasi, free and all that stuff. But we're worried about our governor. We're worried about our governor in Alabama, dude. She caved into a USA Today article and a CNN, correspondent, and all of a sudden we're wearing masks because we just like you, Tom, in Florida. That our governor did not done what she did. She's weak, and it's going down to the point where you guys have to know who you guys are vetting when elections times come. I mean, I'm not even sitting there thinking that we're going to have free and fair elections ever again.
No, we're not.
We can elect our sheriffs, and our sheriffs are going to be the ones deputizing all of us. And if you got a weak sheriff, expect tyranny. And I just wanted to leave you guys with that, dude. I love all you guys, but it's time to start protesting. It's time to realize, dude, that we need to stop taking liberals, dude, at their word, and we need to start, taking them when they sit here and say we're going to beat up Trump supporters, when we're going to sit here and gulag Christians, like John Brennan said, Christians and libertarians. I don't know if you guys caught it today.
And we did.
It's time.
Okay. All right. Thanks an awful lot. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And let's see. Let's get on back to some news here. Catching up on the science news that's kind of accumulated here. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin is planning to launch humans into orbit in just a few months, following New Shepard's 14th test flight that carried Mannequin Skywalker 300,000 feet into the air. So, SpaceX has got its competition, and that's good. Competition encourages, lower prices and better quality. And we're already seeing how these corporate space companies are able to do what they do for far less than NASA was spending. And I think that would be a really good idea. But I'm glad NASA is off global warming and back into space exploration, although with Biden in the White House, who knows what NASA is going to be directed to do next. All right, we're going to go back to the phones to Bob in West Palm Beach. Hello, Bob. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi. I just wanted to say that it took me till the last day of the Trump administration to realize that I'd been hoodwinked by Trump, and it's just, people called it like the false left-right paradigm. You think you're right and the other people are wrong, but just because you can see the other people are wrong, that does not make you right. You can be just as much of a cult, because when Trump didn't pardon Assange and Snowden, and when he didn't present any evidence about the fraud of the election, when he's got the FBI and the CIA and all that to investigate.
Well, no, that's not entirely That's not entirely accurate. I mean, first of all, we understand that Mitch McConnell threatened Trump that if he pardoned Assange, that it would seal his fate if the Senate holds an impeachment trial, which they're still nattering and gromishing about. As far as the FBI and the CIA, they were never on Trump's side, which is why Biden is keeping Christopher Wray as the head of the FBI.
Oh, okay, but it seems like ever since just a couple of days ago, I see everything differently. Like in the comments of things, people are saying there's still, I can just see all this like Trump worship stuff when I didn't see it before. Mm-hmm. And even, I've been censored by conservative voices by being critical of Trump. And that's even more, I think it's just more horrible than when liberals censor conservatives. That's one thing. But then when conservatives censor other conservatives, it's really disgusting. Like the Screen Hoopla YouTube channel censored me, any of my critical comments. And it's just really demoralizing.
Well, I don't think anybody, should be censored. I absolutely support the First Amendment right to freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And that's being taken away from us bit by bit. The government isn't doing it because of that First Amendment, but they're having their allies in these social media corporations do the dirty work for them.
Yeah, and when we censor our own people, you're keeping yourself from knowledge that may help you see things clearer. Just because you don't want to hear it doesn't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's keeping other people from being able to see stuff that maybe they should be able to see.
I agree. Everyone should see all arguments on all sides, so that they can come to a good decision for themselves. The whole goal of propaganda is to control the mind by controlling what it knows, and that we're seeing that emerge here in the United States right now.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay, you've got it. We're going to switch over to Ramon in Austin. Hello, Ramon. Welcome to the show. What is on your mind today?
Yeah, I just hear a lot of bemoaning, and I'm not one to join that crowd. I think that solution is pretty simple and pretty straightforward in the sense that if, and I wrote to Trump and his, everybody, both sides about this, and messaged them and tweeted them and all this other stuff before the election. And basically, I just think that if we just did one thing, focused on getting the election ballot counting, or the election make your vote count.
Yes.
And all these millions of people volunteered on a local basis and so on down the line, instead of getting all riled up. Let's do something positive that will actually make a difference. I mean, eventually, I guess it would get to the point where there might be some measures having to be voted on to make it count, just by ballot, and sit down with verifiable presence, both sides.
Well, all those
sides,
laws are already
parties.
in existence. I mean, what happened in November,
Sure.
To steal the election, they were simply ignoring all the safeguards and the cross-references. The liberals made a point of volunteering for all these counting rooms, and they could be counted on to support the election theft. So laws only go so far. You've got to have people who are willing to basically say, we all agree ahead of time to play by the rules. And unfortunately, Biden's people did not.
Right. I agree. And I totally get it. But I think that also if all these people that we saw marching, and if I could have, I probably would have been out there too, or, going to Washington, even though there was danger. If all these people that are really concerned and really feel like there's no hope or whatever, I think that if we, between now and the next presidential election, actually between now and any other election, but let's look long down the road here. If everybody got involved in that process and essentially did the same thing they did, take it over, make sure that it's all verified and everything. I don't think laws are going to do anything. I think probably every election,
we could wind up,
some tampering or.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Battle of Athens, Tennessee?
No.
Okay, you need to do a web search on that. It was a case where the citizens of a town literally armed themselves to prevent an election from being stolen. And a lot of people have pointed to that and said, what they did may have been technically illegal, but it was the morally right thing to do.
Sure. And here's the other thing. I mean, like, for example, there's simple things like if everybody, instead of going up to the Capitol, was, let's say, a certain distance outside of and just laid down type of thing, they couldn't insurrect, they couldn't agitate. So there's a lot of little things like that.
The government sends in these agent provocateurs to cause the violence so that the protesters can be demonized. I mean, I don't think any of Trump supporters, were actually behind any of what was going on in the Capitol building, especially that guy with the horns on his head and the furs and everything. If that doesn't scream liberal, I mean, nothing will.
Yeah, I tell you, I watch those videos and my blood boils, but
Yeah.
I still think that if everyone got started now, and I've already gotten a Proton email, and I'm starting. I'm looking at GoFundMe. I'm looking at all these different avenues to.
Well, GoFundMe is deplatforming conservatives right now. Ramon, I got to let you go. We have to take a break for commercials. The phone lines are open, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Last segment on this Thursday evening here. We're going to go back to the phones to James in Vancouver. James, thank you for calling. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, it's got to make you wonder, what does Assange have on Mitch McConnell then, or on all the other Congress people that are there?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily that Assange has anything, because, WikiLeaks is still in operation and they could release the information. I think that the government is realizing they made a big public relations error with both Assange and Snowden, but they can't back up off of it now. I'm very disappointed that Trump didn't pardon them. But again, apparently he was threatened with a foregone conviction in his impeachment trial in the Senate. If he dared pardon them. So somebody somewhere, wants Assange. They want to make an example out of him. They basically want to put an end to investigative journalism. Modern journalism is simply reading whatever the government's computer feed tells you to read.
Yeah, but Assange may have that in a special repository that the WikiLeaks can't get. You see, it could be more complicated than what one might expect, because you see, Donald Trump also could have done things, but he didn't do things. You see, so I got to think that there's some kind of blackmail going on. But anyway.
Jeff Epstein seems to have snared just about everybody in the power establishment, and whoever's got those recordings now wields a tremendous amount of influence.
So there might be a connection between Epstein and Assange and
no, I didn't say that. I basically said...
No, I know you didn't say that.
Yeah, okay.
Say that. No, you didn't say that. I said that, you see. We don't know how deep this thing goes, is what I'm saying. See?
Well, it definitely goes pretty deep here, and it seems like compromised people won't trust anybody else who isn't equally compromised in Washington.
And then there's China, the China card. Okay. Well,
yes, the China card. All right. Well, thank you for the phone call. Thank you very much for the phone call. Getting on back to the news here. Back on Mars, NASA's InSight mole they've given up on it. They've been trying for 2 years to drill a 16-foot hole into the Martian crust to take temperature readings. It just didn't work. There was one last attempt involving 500 strokes, and now they've called it quits and said this is never, ever going to work. Now, apparently, the U.S. Space Force is going to get nuclear reactors. Now, this article doesn't say if they're true fission reactors or merely radioactive thermoelectric generators like we used on Viking and Curiosity. And, of course, we're about 1 month away from when Perseverance touches down, and that's going to be exciting as well. There's the music. Time to end the program here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday, and aloha, America.